again, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar, Scaling Your MSP. Jen 6, the Senior Product Manager, Product Marketing Manager here at GoTo. She is going to be walking you guys through how you can leverage MDM to add more revenue streams to your business, as well as to better support your clients. So with that, Jen, I'll hand it over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maria, and hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here chatting all things MDM and how that can impact your MSP. Before we jump in, I just wanted to prompt everyone to get a better understanding of where we all sit with MDM, and I'm curious who here is already using an MDM solution in your MSP. So if we could answer this, I would love to see kind of where we're at. And I see lots of answers coming through, so thank you for the engagement. And it looks like right now we're leaning pretty heavily towards not yet, but considering it, so perfect. We've got some people using one, awesome. All right, very good. I think we've got a pretty good poll set there. So it looks like a lot of people are considering it. So hopefully today's content is exactly what you're looking for. So let me just quickly introduce myself so you know who you're listening to. As Maria said, my name is Jen. I work on the product marketing team here, focused on LogMeIn Resolve. I have a rich history with the MSP industry. I've worked on different MSP softwares for the last 14 years. So I am really, really excited to now be talking all things LogMeIn Resolve and sharing that with the industry I love so dearly. So just a quick overview of what we'll be chatting through today. We'll kick it off with just kind of an overview of where we stand as far as security in the MSP space and things that are happening, in our industry that we need to stay on top of, and then really jump into that MDM overview and what that really means for you as an MSP, what that means for your customers, and how you can leverage that as a growth opportunity for your business and add to that bottom line with additional revenue streams. We'll chat through ways to position MDM and really get your customers enabled and excited about the idea. And then we have a Resolve MDM demo that we'll wrap up with before questions. So really excited to see what questions you all have around MDM and then get you some visibility into our solution. So I think it really comes as probably no surprise that when we look at the state of security, especially from an MSP lens, that there is an escalating threat landscape. There is so much sophistication, and it's forever increasing with cyber criminals and how they're targeting endpoints and networks. And because of that rapid growth that we're seeing in the mobile and IoT, Internet of Things device usage, that attack surface is expanding. And they are really, really good at finding the vulnerabilities and weak spots to go in and do ransomware attacks, phishing attacks, and things on those unsecured devices. We're also starting to see this interesting shift where customers are demanding security. I know, having worked in this space for quite some time, there was and still is a struggle sometimes to get customers to see the need that they have for cybersecurity. A lot of them will maybe think, I'm not really a target. It's not that critical for me to have all these security offerings, when in reality, it is, because cyber criminals know smaller attacks don't make the main news and they can still get valuable information. So while there is that sort of maybe resistance toward it, I think there's also an innate need that they know they have to be secure, but they're just looking to you as the MSP to deliver that. You handle their technology. There might even be an assumption already that there's lots of cybersecurity happening to protect those customers. So there's really a great opportunity, and we'll dive more into it around enabling and educating our customers on that need. And of course, as an MSP, you're very likely serving different industries who have lots of regulatory and compliance pressures, especially if you're working with healthcare businesses, financial businesses, the list goes on. So we want to make sure that as an MSP, you can help keep those customers compliant, because we know that failing to meet that compliance can ultimately result in a lot of financial penalties, and not to be dramatic, but maybe even lost business. So not to use scare tactics, but just to keep it real. And the way that we see MDM, we see it really as a business enabler for MSPs. Because we see so many customers of MSPs, those small to medium sized businesses, shifting to a mobile first operation, and somehow bring your own device policies. There's really an opportunity for MSPs to leverage an MDM solution to make sure there is device level security, that there is control over the app usage on those devices, and to keep the data secure. And then lastly, we hear zero trust, that term thrown around so heavily in this industry, and it's starting to be one of those things, you say it so many times, it maybe is losing its luster, but it's certainly more than a buzzword. And it has evolved really from that concept of a zero trust to now it's an operational necessity. And that's something that you can leverage as an MSP internally, having that zero trust be how you navigate and approach cybersecurity, and also something that you can really educate your customers on, and give them that mindset of never trust, always verify, because of that growing landscape. And we need to make sure that we are mitigating those insider threats, any kind of lateral movement on the network, and credential abuse. So I was doing some research around this and found some statistics that I found pretty interesting, and maybe you could take some of these away as statistics to use in your customer education as well. But because of that, again, evolving and expanding landscape, cyber criminals are starting to move towards mobile first strategies to infiltrate those systems, because they can find those weak mobile endpoints. So 82% of phishing sites are now targeting mobile devices. And another stat that this article called out was that 76% of those sites, these cyber criminals are actually using HTTPS on those URLs to trick end users. I know that's something I was taught years ago to look for to make sure a website is secure. And now they've even leveraged into that as a means to trick end users. But 71% of employees just in organizations are using mobile devices for work tasks. That's a pretty large number. I actually thought it might be higher, but depending on the industry, there's a lot of need for a mobile device. You know, we're always looking to stay connected to our work, and get more done. So lots of mobile devices out there. And interestingly enough, the apps that are getting downloaded on mobile devices, those that are coming from places, these site-loaded apps, they're coming from somewhere other than an official app store, are 200% more likely to encounter malware. And this report reported that the financial services industry is actually the most vulnerable to those types of attacks, with those site-loaded apps. So we just want to make sure as an MSP you have the strategies and the solutions to protect not only your MSP, but of course your customers when it comes to the usage of these mobile devices. And that's really where MDM comes in, right? We see MDM as that cornerstone of modern security with all these mobile devices on the rise. So what exactly is MDM, a mobile device management? Well, it is really managing those mobile devices, but it's giving you as the MSP the ability to control, to secure, and enforce defined policies onto smartphones, tablets, and laptops, so that we can optimize those mobile devices. We can protect them on both company-owned and employee-owned devices, giving you the access to remotely manage the devices and keep them compliant and secure. We also see it as a way to help improve your customers and users' productivity. There are ways to control the apps that go on these devices. So maybe there are a few that are taking away from productivity. We can certainly ensure that those apps are not available on devices. So an MDM is really that centralized solution that would allow you to create those configurations and push them out to devices at scale and deploy them easily so that it's not a one-to-one. And of course, the why is hopefully at this point kind of been stated, but we want to make those devices secure for your end users, keep them productive, keep them compliant, and as the MSP, give you a central location to be able to manage those devices, see what's going on, and still allow for that flexibility for the devices being used. And when you're thinking about exploring an MDM, I'll go through this pretty quickly because we do have a demo coming up, but the MDM features to really be on the lookout for is really being able to see the device inventory. What hardware is out there in your customer environments? What software do they have on those devices? Being able to monitor and track them, being able to create those configurations and restrictions so that you have control over the data security and ensuring compliancy on those devices while still giving the necessary tools they would need to do their job. And then that app and content management control. So managing the apps and the content that they can get to, blocking apps or software that are deemed unnecessary, maybe promote unproductivity. We want to make sure, excuse me, that they don't have access to those. Keeping the devices secure with strong passcodes, making sure that those kinds of things are built into those policies, and then having the ability from your MDM, if a device is lost or stolen, to be able to wipe those and keep them clean. And then, of course, kind of hand in hand, being able to enforce those policies at scale, having a solution that will help you do that, and one that will help you automate it so that you know they're staying true to the policies that you've defined for those devices. So this is where I think the most interesting topics come in is what are the challenges that come along with implementing MDM, and where are some of those opportunities? Where can we flip the script from it being a challenge to something that can actually help your MSP grow and scale? So some of the challenges, of course, it can be difficult to really get customers on the same page and help them understand the delicate balance there is between what the costs of a cyber attack or something like that versus the premium services that you as an MSP would be offering them, and bringing them into the know on the necessity of investing in advanced security measures. And as an MSP, I commend you all so much because there's so many things always changing, so many tools hitting the market that you have to learn and keep up with, and it just makes it more complex to have to manage and manage that tool sprawl that comes along with all the new things you have to offer. But I think with that, with a challenge, there's always an opportunity. So we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of those in the MSP space. And one thing is with cybersecurity criminals, on the rise and then making the news more, there is that shift in your customer mindset that maybe they do need that cybersecurity, maybe they are budgeting for that. And for those customers that are, let's really tap into that IT budget. If they know that security is going to be something they need to spend money on, let's show them where that money can best be spent with your services. And it's coming up on the next slide, some strategies around how to get these services into your offerings. But think about how you can enhance your offerings into premium services and more encompassing holistic services that would keep your customers safe so that they can see the bigger picture. And then the last bit, think about how you can partner with vendors to simplify that implementation for your MSP, and then how that simplification can help your customers realize value a lot faster. And a lot of different vendors out there will have white labeling type things that you can use so that you can educate your customers, or even ideas on how you can educate your customers. So take advantage of that. as you can. But when you're starting to think about how can you monetize this, how can we get it into our customers' offerings in a way that they're receptive to, we want to make sure that you're not only talking about enhancing your client's security structure, but that you, as the MSP, are really unlocking those strategies that can help you grow and realize bigger profits. So the first thing here is think about how you can bundle services, with the goal really being to increase that wallet share with your customers. So things like maybe the endpoint protection that you offer your customer, or backups, or if you've designed like your zero trust architecture as a service offering, think about how you can combine those into those premium type offerings. You could offer perhaps differentiated pricing tiers, maybe like a bronze, silver, gold approach, so that you can cater to diverse clients, of course, where there's that necessity to customize what that offering is, but also have it packaged in a comprehensive endpoint security package or something of this sort, so that you can include MDM, patch management, the ransomware protection you might be offering. And then that way it tells a bigger story. You have a great bundle you can offer your customer to keep them secure. You can also really position yourself as that thought leader and trusted advisor for your MSP customers. And you can market that MDM maybe around regulatory compliance and reducing liability. Maybe that's even a service you offer, a compliance as a service type offering. And you can charge a premium for that on top of maybe what you're already offering. So think of things like readiness assessments and audits, or like I said, a compliance as a service package. And that could include from you as the MSP, those audits, the reporting and policy enforcement. And you can show them from your MDM different reports that go along with that. And that, I think, kind of ties into this delivering proactive threat management and insight. So using your MDM's real-time monitoring and the reporting capabilities built within it to offer that proactive threat intelligence and that real-time risk mitigation. And it's really kind of interesting. It's one of the things that has come up so many times in talking to MSPs, the need to better display value and get your customers to really appreciate the value that you are bringing to them. So think of how you can weave these items into your quarterly business reviews, or however often you run those with your customers, bringing those MDM insights, bringing other stats, maybe if you haven't moved that customer onto MDM yet, bringing those success stories, things of that nature that you can really highlight for a customer to fully have that aha moment, and really enhance your customer trust, still build on that value, and then ultimately the goal here is to not just overburden you with more work, but to establish sustainable revenue streams that your MSP can rely on, and then your customers can really rely on as well. So hopefully that provides a little bit of insight. We certainly want to kind of highlight our solution. I know the demo here is a little around 15 minutes that we're going to show you. So it does go past that 30-minute mark. And I just want to call out again that we are absolutely recording this. We will send this out so that if you have to hop, no worries. We'll make sure that you have the content. But still, if you have to jump soon, or just throughout the video, make sure you're popping those questions in. We want to make sure we have you entered into the raffle drawing, and we want to make sure that we can address those for you as they come through here. So let me pop into this demo video, and yeah, give us your questions as you have them.
All right. Yeah, we'll get our screen share up in just a moment here. If I can just get those right. Yeah, super interesting information here, you know, about how everybody's working with kind of multiple different multiple different operating systems, and the security being such a main focus. I'm going to make sure, one of my big rules when I give a demo is I always want to show you guys, what's most relevant to you first, rather than giving you an hour-long list of features of, things that may not be so relevant. So with that, you all should actually be able to see now for the first time the product, right? So like Kim mentioned, just want to get you guys in here and show you as much of it in motion as we can. So mobile device management in general, I'm going to go ahead and launch my spiel, is focused, in my opinion, on two main things, or at least our approach to it is focused on two main things, which is we want to give you guys additional insight, and we want to give you additional control over your mobile devices. So for a lot of us who work in those multi-device or multi-operating system environments like we talked about earlier, frankly, mobile kind of functions in a way that's very different than the way we treat our normal kind of conventional laptops and desktop PC, computers, right? Mobile kind of, we don't have the tools to necessarily restrict it or make it function in the way that we behave, and that's the way that we would like it to behave, and that's where mobile device management comes in, right? This tool is going to allow us to learn about our devices, and it's going to allow us to design the ways that they should behave in terms of security, application deployment, configuration, and a ton of detail, right? So remember that as I kind of break down the rest of the product here, and I'll be keeping in mind those lovely poll results as we get in here. So where I'm starting us in the product demo today, I think is probably the most exciting part of the product, which is our devices menu. We're going to talk about enrollment, how we get our devices in here, and what the deployment of something like this actually looks like later. But before I do that, and give you guys all that technical information, I think that it's really useful to highlight exactly what you get when those devices are actually added. So whether it's 1,000 devices or just a couple like I've got here, when they're enrolled, they'll show up in this list. And we get all sorts of useful information on them right here in this bulk sense, right? I get information about the model number, the operating system we're running, the last time it checked in with us. And if I hop into this little iPad here, oh, 1 second, it's gonna make me re-authenticate. Apologies. I guess my connection sat for too long while we were going through our slides here. But until then, yeah, we're gonna hop into this iPad. There we go. Apologies, just had to enter that password one more time. So yeah, in this menu, you can see right away, I have a ton of information about the iPad itself. So I can see what version of iOS it's running. That's really useful from a security perspective. I can see the storage space that we have available on the device. I can see whether or not we have iCloud lockout configured on it, right? If you've ever been in a situation, for example, where you are administering an iOS device and an employee leaves the company, gives you the device back, and doesn't give you the iCloud password to get back into it, guess what? With a tool like Go to Resolve MDM, we can get into that device using this bypass passcode anyway. Just helps us to maintain that ownership, in addition to kind of, like I was saying, learning about what the device is up to. Again, to the tune of learning what the device is up to, we also have this lovely location tracking information that we're able to pull down. This is opt-in, right? There are some use cases where people might not want this. But for those that do, we provide actually historic information about where devices over time and where it's reported back from. So you can see in the last 30 days, this one has mostly been at home and has also gone on a small trip with me. I can also jump into the applications menu here and get a list of all the apps that are installed on the device itself. So, in terms of that, again, that data gathering, learning how these devices are already being used, this is going to be really, really helpful for us to make those decisions about what we should or shouldn't have on the device, right? There's more that we can gather. I'm not going to go over absolutely all of it, but this includes things like more detailed inventory information, information about what's been deployed on the device in the past, similar stuff to that, right? But I also want to show you guys, in addition to that insight I was talking about, that learning we can do, some of the changes we can make. So up here in the security menu, we have some of those really key important features for kind of ensuring the security of our data and making sure our devices behave the way we want. I can click on this menu and I could remotely wipe this device right here. I could enable lost mode. So if somebody has turned off, the Wi-Fi or not, the connectivity to it or anything, we can enable lost mode and make sure that that location tracking functions anyway. I can clear the passcode remotely or even just lock the device. I even have the ability to just reboot it, send a software update, even just send a message to the end user if we prefer. There are all sorts of useful kind of corrective actions we can take, on this menu, as well as all the data that we can learn about, right? So that's a little bit about what we can do with the devices in, kind of an individual sense. But in a broader sense, a tool like Go to Resolve MDM is also about helping us design our ideal security and kind of application configurations on these devices. And for that, I want to take us into the configuration profiles menu right here. So you can see right away that we have a really, really simple and kind of easy to understand UI. We break everything down into sort of spreadsheets wherever we can. And what you're looking at right now is a list of different features that I've already configured, and your installation will have plenty of these preset up too, for different things that we can enable on these devices. Maybe I want to block a specific application, or I want to make a shortcut to a website. Maybe I want to set up a passcode requirement on these devices or pre-configure email. Maybe I need to, set up our Wi-Fi in advance or configure the iPad to be used as a shared iPad. All of these things I can do through this menu. And adding a new policy is very, very simple in our tool. We tried to make this as easy to use as possible compared to the other products that are on the market. So with that, I have the ability to, add a new policy, for example, to iOS or to Android just by choosing them from this list, walking it forward and choosing the type of policy we want to implement. Maybe it's a wallpaper policy, something as simple as that. Click next. It's going to prompt me to upload my wallpaper. I will name the policy, and then it will go into the list down here, right? So making these changes, whether it's something as big as blocking certain applications or putting restrictions in place, which I'll show you in a moment, is really, really, really simple. And again, the name of the game here is this is like a painter's palette. It's going to give you tools to decide how these devices should function in detail. With that, we have the ability like you can see in this restrictions menu, to create really, really in-depth or intense policies, or really light ones like just a wallpaper, right? So this could even include things like denying, different types of syncing for an iPad, or find my device, or even application installation or uninstallation entirely. Just showing you guys again all of this to paint a picture of how big of a toolkit that you get here, right? And when it comes to deploying one of these, it couldn't be simpler, right? We choose it from the list, click deploy, and then send it out. But not only do we make it easy to deploy them, we do it faster than other competitors too. And I want to show you that actually in real time here. So I'm actually pulling up an iPad that I have right here in front of me. And this iPad is running YouTube, right? So let's say that as technicians, we think that we don't want YouTube using up our data anymore. This is an appropriate use case for our tool. So I've got my block YouTube policy right here. I click deploy. I choose the devices that this should go out to, this being my iPad mini. And then I'm going to click deploy on it. And as soon as I do that, I'm going to pull up our screen share here again. And we will give it just a second. And we're actually going to see in real time, there you go, as it removes the application. And if I were, as a user, to go back in here and try and reinstall it, I want to show you what will happen. So I'll search up YouTube, click open, and then you can see I get a pop-up from the operating system telling me that there's a restriction in place and that this feature isn't available to me because the administrator has put it into place. So just a really quick, useful example of the type of control that we're going to extend to all of your devices that you don't get without a tool like this. This is the type of thing that we really can't configure, especially on a mass scale, without a mobile device management platform. And this ease of use and this quick turnaround applies to all of the platforms we support. I saw you guys talk earlier about in that chat about the 4 different platforms or more that most teams are working with now. We support Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and Android with a huge variety of these features and that same rapidity of deployment. So just remember that as we go further. So that's configuration profiles. That's a little bit about the types of changes we can make to these devices, the extra power you're going to get as an administrator using a tool like this. But also, we have, of course, the classic ability. We want to be able to deploy those apps, right? What is a device without our applications? So we have a bunch of different methods that we can use to deploy apps to any of our platforms. Just like before, simple spreadsheet-based UI. If I want to add something to this, all I have to do is choose my platform, for example, iOS, walk through here, either give it a file upload or tell it where on the App Store the application is, and then add it to this list, right? Same thing with Windows, Mac OS. We'll handle your own executables for you, or we can pull them down from repositories, whatever you prefer. And once we have them on here, they can be deployed just like you saw before by clicking this deploy button, choosing the version that we want to get on here, and then choosing our devices, right? So Really, really simple. And this could be just the same for 20 devices as well as 1 or 200, right? Whatever the scope it is that you have, we're going to make it easy to get those on here. And what that means is now there's no more, taking a device out of the box, going to the App Store, logging in with a company account, and hoping employees don't mess with it, downloading those apps manually, building those configurations. Instead, now we can do it with this tool, and we can do it in a standardized, reliable way where we maintain control regardless of what the end user does with the device. So just a really huge benefit there. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but for teams where it's also relevant, know that we can actually upload local files to many of these operating systems. So if you have documentation that needs to go on the end user's device, or if you need to add an SSL certificate for your own intranet, we can handle that for you. But I think, usually the question that I get next is, okay, so we can add all of these lovely things. How do we automate it? How do we make it so, if I have 100 devices, I don't have to click deploy on each of them. I can send it out to everything at once. That's where our business policies come in. So business policies are a combination of everything we talked about previously, our configurations, our applications, everything that we've mentioned. And I can apply these really easily to every device in my environment or to devices that match a tag. So if you've got 5 different departments that are all going to need different packages of applications, you can delineate them here just like that. Or if you want to apply something to everything, which is what I'll use for today's demo, I can do it here. And I'll say this is our Deminar test 2 policy, give it a name, and then it'll show up in our list. And now I can start to add anything that I want to this. So maybe this policy, all of my devices are going to need a couple of key applications. We'll say they're going to need Google Maps and Google Drive. Those seem pretty important. And Android devices are going to get this Workforce app. I just choose them out of the list here, add them to this policy, and now they'll be part of it. Same thing with our configurations. Really, really simple here. All we do is just push through a couple. Maybe I want to block TikTok and allow a couple of specific applications. I click add, add them to this list. And then now, again, any device that matches this criteria, which is every device in our environment, like you saw me configure earlier, will now have this apply to them. And I can check actually to see if our devices are in or out of compliance with our policy by going to this menu and just looking at this list, right? The green check mark means that it's in compliance. The red exclamation mark means that it isn't. So not only do we get a list of whether or not these things are in or out of compliance, but our system is actually going to attempt to automatically rectify any of the issues here. So if somebody uninstalls something important or breaks a certain policy that we know we want to be automatically enforced, our system is going to say, hey, you should function according to this template. It'll enforce that and then make it work, right? Again, all of this has a tagging system. So we could say, maybe this should only apply to devices that have the appraisals tag too. We can be as granular or as broad as we want with a policy like this. And it really lets us, again, use this painter's palette to envision how secure or loose we want to be with our devices and build out our policy and enforce it in a standardized way, right? So that's a little bit about the changes we can make to these devices, how we can automate them and make them happen, like you saw, very quickly and very reliably. But I also want to tell you guys a little bit more about how we help you to learn about your devices and make decisions about them. And for that, I want to show you our dashboard menu. So one of our big rules with this product is if we get information from these APIs, from these devices communicating back to us, we want to present it to you in a useful way, right? So for this, I have our dashboard here, which can tell us, for example, which devices have our passcode policy in place, which ones have checked in online recently, what our overall platform split is, what the data security status is, almost any useful information that you could imagine about these devices. And I can actually click through on any of these charts to get a list of the things that are in or out of compliance. So it looks like this Android device doesn't have a passcode. I can actually take actions on it directly from here and start to rectify those problems, right? We have a really, really extensive custom reporting infrastructure too that'll let you go in even more detail than just that. But I don't want to break that down in too much detail for today. We're trying to keep this a quick 20-minute demo. We got about 5 left. So just know that that exists. If you don't see something in the dashboard and you want it, we can probably provide it to you through this reporting UI here as well. So with that, I think the last thing to talk about, is just giving you guys a small picture of, okay, this is all really wonderful. How do we actually get our devices into here? So in short, there are 2 major ways to enroll your devices in mobile device management. We support manual enrollment and automated enrollment. So there are pieces of infrastructure, this might ring a bell for some people out there, like Android Enterprise enrollment, or Apple Business Manager that allow you to actually get a record of all of the purchases you've made, all of the different devices that you've purchased, and then automatically connect them to this environment and have them show up in here without really any user intervention at all. We call that our zero touch enrollment. And what that means is that you guys can actually create a situation with this where you take the device out of the box. Apple knows to send it to our MDM because you bought it from them and you told them to do that using your Apple Business Manager account. After they turn it on, it connects, downloads its policies, and you don't actually have to set up anything by hand anymore, right? That's zero touch enrollment. We can do that for Android as well. There are a couple of different steps to configuring it because, as we know, Android, there's more platform differences there. Similar situation, there are ways we can automate enrollment with Windows, but if all of that sounds too complicated and you've got a smaller, deployment and you just want to kind of check things out for the first time, we've got a really, really lovely, kind of step-by-step manual enrollment process that can be done as simply as just scanning a QR code and enrolling it by hand. So if you've got 5 or 10 just to try this out that you want to get started with, you can just scan this QR code on whatever relevant device that you have, install the profile, and it's going to work just fine too. There's more steps to it, of course. There are going to be caveats depending on your needs, but in general, that is actually how quickly we can get these on here. However, we know for a lot of folks, this could be their first time deploying a mobile device management environment, or maybe it's not, and still is just something that is a bit of a head scratcher. We provide really in-depth and customizable setup guides right from the get-go. You can see all I have to do is hop through this list here, tell it what it is that we want to do. Maybe I want to secure our devices and enroll Android and iOS. And we will give you a customized setup guide that will take you exactly where you need to go in our tool for each step to complete the enrollment process and the setup process for whatever it is that you're looking to do. All of this means, that if you've never come at this before, it's going to be easier than anything else in the market. And if you're coming at this a second time, we're going to take your existing infrastructure. We'll be able to import it automatically, really, really easily for you and make the transition from your current provider to us a total breeze. So yeah, there's more to talk about. I don't want to inundate everybody with that though. And it looks like we're getting up close to Q&A time here, but know that we can do patch management on Windows, that, we have some action logging about what's been done in the tool as well, that we make it really, really easy to see an infrastructure diagram of everything that you guys have hooked up. But with that, with the changes that we've talked about that you can accomplish using this tool, with the insight that you can gather, right? I hope that I've painted a decent picture of what exactly it is you can accomplish with an MDM and why you should have it. This is going to enable you to bring those devices into compliance, to really make them behave as a uniform, reliable piece of corporate infrastructure, rather than something that kind of exists outside of the paradigm of how these things normally function.
Awesome. Thank you for engaging through the demo. I know we had quite a few questions come through, so I have just a couple more things that I want to touch on around our offering at LogMeIn. We do have for MSPs an all-in-one IT management offering for you that includes LogMeIn Resolve, mobile device management, and advanced remote support by way of our camera share functionality. So if you're interested in learning more about that, how you would be able to take advantage of all of that functionality, and I feel like I should mention the remote support is much more than just the camera share, but that is typically an add-on that would be included with this MSP offering. So if you are interested in learning more about that, certainly let us know. But we also want to let you know, especially for those of you that did have questions throughout, we do have an MDM trial, a free 14-day trial you can take advantage of using this QR code. So if you want to kick the tires around a little bit and see what you can do, absolutely take advantage of that with our MDM trial. And then if you're thinking to yourself, maybe you're interested in exploring our other IT management solutions in terms of RMM, remote support, that is all inclusive in our LogMeIn Resolve offering here. So if you want to try that out, we do have a free 14-day trial of that as well. So this QR code will take you to that trial page and you can test around with that too. So I'll leave that up for a second. and then I will pop into some of the questions we got. And I know that we are over the 30 minutes time slot. So if we don't address your question, we will absolutely follow up. Or if I told you we'd follow up, we will definitely do that too if we chatted through the chat during the demo. But we did get a question around how is this MDM tailored for MSP? So I did want to just touch on that. Our MDM is multi-tenant, so you can support those client endpoints across all of your customer organizations. Those dashboards and reporting things that you saw, all of that can be leveraged with that multi-tenancy so that you still gain that visibility and control, but still having everything in that one platform. And then, sorry if I missed this, what operating systems does Resolve MDM support? So iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. And a question about reporting. We do have that dashboard that you saw. We have that report builder that Chad had showed a little bit there, but you can certainly use that to surface the data you're looking for, And then the last question here that we'll have time for today is just any tips around positioning this for your customers. So yeah, that slide around the different ways to bundle it and statistics, pulling all of that, maybe creating like a blog series on your website that you can promote through your customer comms or to your prospects, having maybe a webinar as part of a series where you could talk about it, and then maybe just creating some simple kind of fact or one-pager sheets that you could use. I know we had a few more questions. There were some about features. We did upload, if you go to the materials section in the control panel, we have a feature overview sheet there that might answer some of those questions. But again, we'll absolutely follow up with you. And I want to say thank you to everybody for all the engagement that we had. And just thanks for sticking it out. I know we went a little bit over. And I think we may have an announcement around our Amazon gift card. I don't know, Maria, if you wanted to pop on and chat to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone so much for the engagement. We did go through some of the questions, and then if we didn't get to your questions, we'll make sure to address those via email, post the webinar. We just want to be mindful of everyone's time. Regarding the winner, so I have, just based on all the questions, and pardon me if I pronounced your name incorrectly. I have Wakar. So Wakar will be following up with you post the webinar via email to send you over the link to the Amazon gift card.
Awesome. Thanks, Maria, and congrats. Thanks again for all the engagement. And then just quickly to gather some more insights around your interest, if you would be interested in learning more about the unified platform for RMM, MDM, and advanced remote support. We certainly want to make sure that we get you any information that you may require at this time. I'll give you a moment here to go ahead and answer that. And then we are pretty much through the content. So thank you all again so very, very much for joining us and learning more about MDM. Hopefully you got some good tidbits out of the content here, but we will have that exit survey as well. So absolutely give us your feedback. Let us know what you think, any content you'd like to see. We love to hear it. So thank you again so very much, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time.